Happy 2011. A few hours ago, got back from my third viewing of The Voyage to the Dawn Treader. And nothing else really as far as it didn't really change my overall opinion that much. And I think the adaptation, after seeing it three times, might even be worse than I thought. I think not only does this, what I've been saying in the last few videos, it just fails to capture everything that makes the book great. I would actually go a step beyond that now and say this is almost an anti-Narnia film. It's almost saying the opposite. A number of fans have brought up the humanism in this movie, and I'll get into that at some point. But just, I'll say this is a mediocre at best film and a just terrible adaptation. And so obviously I'm going to get into that in more detail. I'm really getting, narrowing it down more and more. I started very broad general impressions, then I talked about thematically, longing especially. I really focused on RPG Power that just totally failed on every level to capture the power of that. Then I talked about Dawn Treader as far as a plot. The Seven Swords and Green Mist just make it so fundamentally something different. It really waters down the honor and adventure of it. Makes it more about finding things we need, finding things useful. It's a totally different story. That's why I don't even know if I want to say this is a bad Dawn Treader film, because that would imply that it's a Dawn Treader film. I think it's not even a Dawn Treader film at all. So what I think I'm going to do now is basically go through this more or less chronologically. The next several videos, however long it's going to be, will be um, pretty much a very long multi-video commentary of the movie, pretty much chronologically here. First off, we got the Fox logo, so the Disney logo at the beginning. Then the Walden Media logo fades, just like with Prince Caspian, fades into the first shot of the movie, which is the stained glass window, just as I speculated it might. Fades into the stained glass window of the lamppost is cool. Cool shot. They picked some really old architecture, so you think you might be in Narnia, and then the plane goes past, and you're like, oh, never mind. I'm in the real world, and I thought that was neat. And then whatever your expectations, the first time you see the logo, the title is always a pretty powerful moment. The Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, is that realization of this is it. I'm actually going to see this movie. And a very powerful moment in Wardrobe and Caspian, and this is pretty much no exception. Though the opening credits in general, I was very disappointed, or there's only like three of them, and I loved, I liked the opening credits for Wardrobe and Caspian. Wardrobe especially, I like how it just gives us, there's the chaos of the opening scene, and then we have a good 3 minutes to just kind of sit there, watch the characters, be with them, and feel their plight. And similar thing with Prince Caspian, much more frenetic and fast-paced in Caspian, him running away on his horse, but with just a sense to feel, oh, Caspian's escaping, and just kind of be there and observe Caspian for a while before the story really begins. We don't have the chance to do that at all, and this is a common problem with this movie, is that we don't have time to just sit there and be with the characters. It's go, 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 go. The pacing is so fast. Nonetheless, I was pretty much, excited that the movie has started and into it, and logo's very powerful, cool long shot. Then we have Edmund trying to enlist Alberta Scrub. Oh, it's a topographical error, all that. Whatever, I'm going with it. And I think as a moviegoer, my reaction to that is just kind of okay. They're not that I'm consciously thinking this, but it's kind of okay. They're setting something up with Edmund. Wonder what it is. Then in the next scene, they totally tell you, totally spill the beans, tell you exactly what it is. All the subtlety's gone. And even though I'm liking the movie pretty much so far, this is the first time in the movie where I just got this tiny, I don't think, it wasn't really conscious, only now looking back do I realize it, but I just got this sense that something was wrong. There's something not right here. And it was when Edmund walks out of there and goes, Squid, I'm a king! Now I've led armies! And like, okay, Skander, thank you for telling us exactly what your character's going through. Gosh, that sure saved time. Just the lack of subtlety, the need to spoon feed the audience everything, and that to me, I don't feel involved in what's going on. I don't have a chance to go, oh, this is what, like Peter in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'm watching and I'm like, oh, I see that Peter is really he's struggling to live up to that responsibility of, kind of almost being a father figure, and he's just not ready for that. And there's no scene that says that, but I get it. I feel involved with the character. When they just tell it to you, it's like, well, I'm sitting here in my seat and they're over there. They don't invite me to be involved with the story of the characters at all. And so that was an early hint that there was something not right with this approach. Then, it was nice how when Edmund says, "Oh, Eustace, if there ever was someone who deserved a name." So they did find a way to get that first line in the book, which might be my favorite opening to a book ever. There was a boy called Eustace Clarence Scrubb, and they almost deserved it. They found a way to reference that. Not sure how well it works, but at the very least, I appreciated that as a fan. They found a way to get that in there. Then you have Lucy looking at some random girl just kind of checking herself out. And this is obviously supposed to be setting up Lucy's whole arc and her whole struggle with wanting to look beautiful and all that stuff and wishing herself away. I'll have something to say about that line later. But it's not well done here. It's totally random. Look at some of the Pixar movies, for example. One thing that Pixar is really famous for is really seamlessly disguising setups. So you're watching something the first time and you don't realize it's a setup. It just makes sense for that moment. Then later it becomes important. It's not, well, let's stop the movie and set something up. It's like, no, it just makes sense for that moment. Then later it becomes important. With this, it's like, put the story on pause, have Lucy do her thing with her hair, and then go back. It's like, what's that all about? Again, there's all this, every aspect of these characters is just kind of spoon-fed to you and just thrown in there. They find a way to shoehorn everything in instead of there being a seamless development, an emotional logic behind it. The planes is a part of this scene. That was a cool thing. A nice subtle, again, there's some subtle stuff here. A nice subtle reminder of the historical context. Something Lewis didn't really do, but maybe he didn't really need to. At the time the books were written, and all the Narnia movies so far have kind of emphasized the historical context a little more. And keeping the planes, there was a nice subtle reminder. Hey, World War II is still going on. This is taking place in a real world without having to make a big thing of it. That was nice. I liked the whole element of the planes. Then we go to Eustace's introduction, which I overall liked, and I didn't love all the writing as far as examine legal ramifications of impaling relatives, of killing your relatives. I thought that was kind of dumb. I did like how they're showing, the bugs in a jar, and maybe one of these days I'll probably freeze frame that and see all the details that they came into. A lot of them I seem to recognize as being mentioned in the book. That was nice, and I like. And Eustace's journal is something I'll talk about a lot more later. But that was one of the things that I've been saying for the past year. Oh, that's one of those things that works great in a book, probably could not work in a movie. And I think I was proven wrong there. That was actually one of the more successful things they did. They actually did a good job on Eustace's journal, all in all. Anyway, I like the way he's introduced and he's writing and everything. Great way to introduce his character and his eagerness to annoy. He looks up when they're there and puts his journal in his pocket, so he can get to Narnia, of course. Then runs out, and I like that. So there's a little bit of subtlety here. Then I didn't like, Lucy comes home and so hello Uncle Harold and all that stuff, and Edmund sticks his tongue out at Uncle Harold. And I'm like, he's so beyond that. I mean, maybe in Wardrobe he would have done that, but he is so matured beyond that. That was really silly, I thought. Then we've got we can talk about one of the issues. Oh, by the way, this is the first time in the movie where I sort of looked at an actor's performance and just kind of went, seriously, that was the best take you got? When Lucy goes up to the camera and goes, look, a letter from Susan, and holds it for like 2 seconds. I'm like, was she posing for something? Like, Georgie, what are you doing? There's a handful of moments in the movie where I'm like, the acting in this movie is. There's some good performances. There are some bad ones. It's kind of inconsistent. That was one of those. And Georgie's kind of mostly okay. Then she's got a handful of, what are you doing, Georgie, kind of moments. And here's the first time we can really talk about a big issue that it's something that's been controversial for a while and see how it was handled. Susan being in the movie, and that was something where I was always worried about, like, are they doing it because it makes sense, or are they doing it because they're determined to get Susan and Peter into this movie, whether it makes sense or not? I'm pleased to report that it did make sense. It was all part of setting up Lucy and her desire to want to be like Susan and all that stuff. It did kind of make sense to show Susan and everything, and I thought that worked out very nicely. And you've got the whole. What I didn't like was and again, keeping the historical context in there. The Germans are making it hard to get back. That was interesting. Not making a huge thing of it. Thought that was nice. Then we have Lucy asking Edmund, "Do you think I look like Susan?" And Edmund doesn't really respond at all. If she's like, "Do you think I look like Susan?" He just kind of sits there and ignores her. "Oh, have you seen this ship before?" And it's like, I would think if someone said that, I think Edmund would be like, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" But he just kind of ignores it completely. And this is a really important point. This is a problem throughout the whole film. Is there's a piece of emotional logic totally missing. Like whenever they find the lords. Oh, a dead lord. Where's his sword? There's no remorse or anything for it. There's a piece of emotional. Wait, what are they doing? There's constantly a piece of emotional logic missing. Like Edmund, I think he would either look at her like, what are you talking about? Or at least say, what do you mean you don't look like Susan? He just ignores it completely. It's just kind of thrown in there. Eustace comes in. Oh, and then you have that moment where it's like, yes, it's very Narnia looking, isn't it? Again, sort of those, Georgie, what are you doing? Like looking almost creepy kind of look from Georgie. Um, Eustace comes in and starts talking about fanciful novels and fairy tales, and here's where we really start getting a taste of Will Poulter's performance. A little over the top, but you know what? It's it's a well done over the top performance. Poulter does a pretty good job at it, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. A little bit further than I would have liked, but all in all, I'm definitely watching this going, yeah, this feels like Eustace, the Eustace I remember from the book. And of course, it's a very important point that he talks about how fairy tales and all that nonsense, and I read books of information. It's an important point. And that Lewis, of course, that was a big deal to him. Lewis once said that people who use the term adult as a term of approval cannot be adults themselves. And my favorite C.S. Lewis quote of all time, he said, "When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the desire to be very grown up." And this is certainly Eustace has a desire to be very grown up, and that actually makes him kind of childish. So I thought they captured that pretty well. And you've got the whole rhyming thing going on. And then the whole picture in the bedroom scene starts, which was kind of cool. Certainly I loved when Eustace picks up the picture off the wall and the water is still coming out. That was a pretty neat effect, and the water fills up. And I didn't really like the music in this scene. Definitely there was this feeling of, wait, already? Maybe it's because I'm just used to the first two films. They had those extended opening credit scenes and really had a sense to kind of feel like, okay, I'm with these characters, I'm back, and then before the adventure really kicks off. Here, the adventure kicks off so fast, So I wish they'd had one or two more scenes, or at least slow down the pace of the scenes in the movie. Just let us be with these characters before we throw us into Narnia. Actually, it's not Narnia. They're not. They're never in Narnia in this story. I'll get to that. That's kind of my next point here. But it's a really pretty neat effect when the water's coming out and everything, and it's a pretty cool transition until Lucy pokes her head above the water. And you transition from this pretty impressive effects scene where the water is filling the room and everything. Didn't really like the music that much. It was kind of obvious. But kind of an impressive visual effects scene, which only makes the jump to the next scene that much more jarring, because the effects in the next scene are so bad. When Lucy and Edmund poke their heads above the water, and the blue screen is terrible. And the colors, it doesn't look real at all. Then the Don Cheddar comes towards them. Kind of neat music there, whether that da 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 horn, I thought that was neat. And then these the figures jumping off the ship look incredibly fake. They obviously exaggerated the motion blur so you wouldn't notice, but they look really, really fake. This guy's jumping into the water. Then they come over there, Caspian, Lucy, and they're like, "Oh, we in Narnia? Yes, you're in Narnia." And it's like, this is a little point, but it demonstrates the fact that these writers don't really know what they're talking about, I think, because none of this story takes place in Narnia. They're far east of Narnia. So it's like, look at a map. All you have to do is glance at a map in the back of the book to know that. So I just kind of make a point of this. It's a minor annoyance to me as a fanboy, but it's more about this is kind of, it just to me, it's the fact that they missed something like that. It's like they don't really, the screenwriters don't really seem to understand the story. The fact that no, they're not in Narnia. That's a basic geography thing you ought to know. But then we get again a really bad visual effects shot with Caspian and Lucy rising out of the water. Then the reverse shot where it pans around them. That's pretty cool. And then they get onto the Dawn Treader. Then we have a couple epic shots of the Dawn Treader that really, wow, that's cool. As a fan of the books, kind of makes my heart soar a little bit. And so that's about as far as I can get. My 15-minute time limit is about up. And so all in all, to me, it's like, okay, not really liking this so far. There's some good things here, so yeah, it's definitely not unsalvageable. This could get better. I guess I'm kind of how I'm feeling in this, even though I'm disappointed with some things. Then I'll talk about Reaper Chief's introduction and a little bit about the introducing the major plot points and yeah. So just sort of continue my epic commentary of Don Treader.